actually forgotten, especially in methods, 1 mark, you gain 1 mark because the population is so huge. So 15,000 people doing it, and the median score get a 30. So the standard deviation is 7. So so you get a 37. So those people who got a 37, you are top 16%. Then the majority of people would be, if you are, let's say, slightly above average, you would be up around 30 to 39, especially from 35 to 39. There's so many people falling into this category, and very difficult to get over 40. You have to be the top 11%. So therefore, I keep telling them, if you gain 1 mark, basically, if you lost 1 mark, either through careless mistake or idiotic mistake, your ranking is drop 500. Okay, so VCE is everything to do with ranking. So we rank from from top 1 to the bottom 15,000 in methods. If you are in ranking in the middle, which is 7,000, roughly 7,500, you get a 30. It doesn't matter how good you, how easy the paper, or how difficult the paper. So we're always ranking you. The middle ranking, we give you 30. So 1 mark is huge. Okay, so that's the technique we need to, or the message we need to sort of let students know.
Yeah, every year we do have many students, you know, over 40. So that's quite big. Maybe the rest of 93 or 92% of the Victoria students, that they are the top 8% in the Victoria.
Now it's 9%. It used to be 8% of the top students get a 40, but now it's 9%. They made it slightly easier now.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe
no more questions. No one
no
have
questions.
anything.
Maybe let's start with next topic. Do we want to start with next topic?
We start. Let me have a drink and then we start. So when I talk about those maths, I get excited. So constantly need water. I'm sorry. And I'm getting excited and sweaty. Even I have air conditioning is on. Okay, shall I go? Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Specialist maths.
Okay.
All right. So now, for those people who are started specialist maths, and now specialists, if you are lucky to doing special, if you, as I said before, if you're loving maths, you're choosing specialist maths, you are in a even smaller exclusive club, because in Victoria we have less than 5,000 people doing it. This year we have about 4,500 people doing specialist maths, the entire Victoria. When I started teaching 20 years ago, we have more than 10,000 students doing specialist maths. Before the 20 years ago, specialist maths was the prerequisite for university engineering course. But now, since they dropped that prerequisite, and the specialist maths students declined dramatically. So if you look at 20 years time, they dropped more than half. It's only 4,500 students are doing specialist maths. And then the funny thing is, among those 4,500 students, now without a doubt, you have at least 500. They are absolutely brilliant students. And then in the same taken, if you're talking about the bottom end, at least have 500 people. They basically should not taking specialist maths. They have done a bug, or they always getting very, very, very low mark. We constantly have been, as I said, I have been marking specialist maths exam 2 for the last 10 years. So specialist exam 2 used to have a 58 marks, but now they're 60 marks. Every year you will get many papers get under 10. Especially last year. The last year paper they made, so I have been saying specialist maths for the last 5 years, exclude last year, has been very, very boring. All the questions, we're talking about a second exam, analysis question 5, used to have 5 questions, but now there's 6 questions, plus, because we have the syllabus changing, the last question is probability, statistic probability. So used to have 5 questions, now they have 6. They have been very, very boring from last 5 years, except last year. Until last year, they have put from the question 1 every single question, they have 6 questions, every single question they twist a little bit, they put some unfamiliar question. So the result was absolutely terrible. Last year, I marked those double marking, I marked 320 paper. The first lot of 160 paper only have 3 out of 160 over 50. We're talking about a total mark is 60. They only have 3. So 2 of them are 150, 151. There's only 1 outstanding. So obviously he got everything correct. So, but technically we have to take 2 marks here, and a silly mistake, you got a 58. So the rest of them, so we're only talking about less than 2% of people get above 50. So everyone come out wasn't happy. One of my students come out with tears. He said, she said, Mr. Wang, I can't do lots of questions. But I said, look, don't worry. Just we need to get this message out as well. So if in the under examination, when you see the unfamiliar question, you don't expect you will get it. The majority of the question, you can't get it because it's unfamiliar. But don't worry, there's another at least 70, 80% of the question is familiar. They are familiar question. You should be able to do it. Just calm down. If you can't do this question, you haven't seen this before, don't panic. You think this. If I can't do it, 99% of people can't do it because we haven't seen this before. So once you calm down, you do the question you can do, then you will still do well. Now, let me tell you, the students, the girl came out with tears. She got a 40 in raw specialist methods. So she couldn't believe it. Okay, so when she saw the result. So this is how you have to become. The message you have to come out is this. Okay, so if you find some unfamiliar question you can't do, don't panic, leave it. Do the next question you can do. Fill all the questions you can do, you will still be on the top. If you prepared well, you have done enough work, you will still do well. And also, I need to to emphasize, when you do specialist maths, you need to put even more effort than the methods. Okay, so they need, not only the concept is a lot more complicated, the covered scope, we're talking about a branch of maths in specialist maths, is a lot more than methods. Methods is so boring. We're talking about a couple of functions, then calculus and statistic, probability, that's it. But specialist maths has a lot more variety of concept, okay, in the branch of maths. You're talking about the vectors, and you're talking about a complex number. And if you're talking about a trigonometry, they involve double angle, half angle, triple angle, all sorts of inverse sine, inverse cosine. And then they involve a lot more calculus than the methods. And also half of those calculus questions is involve physics. But if you, so therefore, strongly recommend, if you taking specialist maths, you should concurrently taking physics, okay, VCE physics as well. We give you a great advantage of doing specialist maths. And because we're talking about kinematics and the force, analyze of force, Newton's law, and the differentiation equation. So they're a lot more demanding. And those people who want to pursue engineering course in uni, specialist maths is must. Although they are not prerequisite, I'm telling you it's must, because in high school you still have lots of time with facing time with your teacher. You can ask lots of questions. If you go to uni, some people haven't done specialist maths, they want to do pursue engineering course, then they did a bridging course of specialist maths in uni. They quite often they fail because you don't see the lecture very often. You see them once a week. In 3 hours lecture, they finish the 3 chapters already. Okay, so how quickly you can go? I mean, they just flying those courses. So therefore, even you didn't do well in specialist maths in high school, the specialist maths will lay solid foundation for you for the engineering course. Okay, so it's very important. Okay, again, so as I said, you need to have a huge commitment for specialist maths. In order to get a 40 in specialist maths is so difficult. Let me tell you, we have so many disappointing stories. The top students didn't get a 40, they got a 38, 39. Okay, very close, but you're not good enough. So lots of people working very hard. You have top 500 students at least 500 students. They are so committed and they love maths. They're not only committed, they love maths, and they're so talented as well. And they put lots of effort to, so you're competing with a very talented students in this group, the cohort. Okay, so without further ado, so I am going to share you the second exam last year. Okay, so those questions, as I said, every single question had a little bit of twist into it. When I doing the first question, I was so happy because I have been saying the specialist maths has been so boring, but until last year, they are not boring anymore. Okay, so I'm going to share this program again. So that the question, how do I share this? Okay, so hopefully I can still share. Okay, let's have a look. Share. Oh, where's my paper? Okay, here. Okay, so there you go. So this is the first part of the methods. Okay, now this is the specialist maths. Now, in specialist maths, I actually, this afternoon, I did pre-solution because it's impossible do it without a pre-do it. So I haven't got enough time. Because the specialist maths we're talking about, it's the second exam, the methods was, I'll give you example, was the first exam question, so no calculator. But the second exam paper for the specialist maths is fully calculator. So you use CAS calculator. So there's a lot of CAS calculator. You have to know all the trick on the CAS calculator. If you don't know how to use CAS calculator, you're finished. Okay, so let's have a look at the first question. And this one is last year's first question. We give you a function fx and 2x minus 3, x plus 5, x minus 1, x plus 2. Now that we give you a rational function. So, and there's a lot of people don't know this is called a rational function, okay? So how do we define rational function? Rational function basically is denominator has an x, okay? So if this involves a variable x, and that's the rational function. So you have denominator has denominator is a quadratic equation, numerator is a quadratic equation. The power, be very careful, this is basically methods as well. So the power that we're talking about polynomial, both numerator denominator is all 2. So the same. So this equation, fx equation, is called improper rational function. So lots of people don't know this is improper. When their power, numerator, denominator are the same, so they are improper. So improper rational rational function is same as improper fraction. So improper fraction can be converted, so kind of like 17 over 9. They can be 1 plus 8 over 9. So this is improper fraction converted become a whole number and fraction. So this is improper rational fraction can always convert it to one particular expression plus another rational function. So therefore, they basically ask you to do this long division. So convert this to express this fx into this form where ABC is constant. So some people start doing long division. So when I mark this, now you're wasting the time. You can do long division. Of course, you can do manually. But this paper is on the CAS calculator. If you can do anything on CAS calculator, you should do on CAS. If you do not, if I can do all of this, basically almost every single question except probability question, I can't do it without CAS calculator. I can do all manually, but then not taking 4 hours. So you're taking 4 hours. So you can't, the time is essence. So you have to use CAS calculator. So, but a lot of people don't know how to use CAS calculator to work out long division. So I've written here, so you basically go to manual algebra fraction tools, proper fraction. So you need a manual 3, 9 plus 1. So some people actually don't know. So once you put that in, they give you the solution straight away. So this is improper fraction become a whole number. So in this case, they have 2. They don't have to have a 2. So they can be a linear equation, could be 2x plus 1 or whatever. And then they become this. So this equation become, this part of the equation become a proper fraction. Okay, so the top numerator, the power is 1, is linear equation. The denominator is the power of 2. So this become linear, proper fraction now. So so that's it. This is very simple. So 1 mark. So everyone should get that right. And the second part of this question, not many people got it. So they're asking for how many asymptotes. So very clearly people got those denominator cannot be 0. So x equals 1, x equals -2. So people got those two very quickly. And then they forgot this 2, y equals 2 is asymptote. So we're talking about a bleak asymptote. When we're talking about in talking about a rational function, especially when we have improper fraction, we always have this part is asymptote as well. In this case, is a horizontal asymptote, y equals 2. If this equation, if this is not true, a whole number is 2x plus 1. If this case is 2x plus 1, if you do a calculate work out 2x plus 1, then y equals 2x plus 1 is the asymptote. So it's a bleak asymptote. So this is, lots of people didn't get this line. Okay, so in order to get 2 marks, you need to get, how do we mark this? You get 2 out of 3, you get a 1 mark. If you get a 1, you don't get a mark. You get a 2, you get a 1. You get a 3 correct, you get 2 marks. Okay, so that's how we mark this. And also, I need to express every single question. We have 6 questions in special maths analysis task. Also, methods as well have analysis task. We're talking about the second paper. You always have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, lots. They have 10, 15 marks. In special, we have about 10 marks each. So we in total 60 marks. In special, we have 15, could be up to 15, 17, depends on the number of questions. But I'm always advise students, you never give up any questions. So 6 questions, you have to do all of them. You make sure you get A, B, C correct. The first 3 questions correct, at least 3 marks. You have to get these 3 correct because they are relatively simple and easy. And those 3 marks is a lot easier than the multiple choice question. The last 5 multiple choice question is only 1 mark each. Probably you need 2 minutes or 3 minutes to do it, and you don't even get right answer. So this is a very important message. You never give up any question, because every single question, part A and part B is always first 3 to 5 marks. You should get it. Towards the end, complicated, you can't do it, leave it. Okay, so these 3 marks, you should get it. Now the next one, C. We always have those graphs to sketch this graph. Now I draw this graph, and clearly I don't have time to sketch this graph during this briefing. So the graph now, I was very surprised that we give you 3 marks. My aim is for the student, everyone should get these 3 marks. So for goodness sake, you have no excuse not to get those 3 marks, because we give you a task calculator. You plot this, you define this fx, plot this graph, you should see this branch of a graph. How can you not be able to get those 3 marks? They tell you to work out coordinates, the inflection of coordinates, turning point. Turning point, you have to do derivative. So everything is on the task calculator. You define fx, you do derivative equals 0, you've got a turning point. And this is a turning point, this is a turning point. Then you do second derivative, you've got a point of inflection. You have this point of inflection, this point. Okay, so I'm going to, so this is a turning point, this is a turning point. You do second derivative, you get point of inflection. They all should be done on the task calculator. Then the graph should be all correct. X-intercept, Y-intercept, everything has to be followed. Okay, but when we mark, we very specifically see this point has to be in this corner, in this square, and this point has to be in this square. If this turning point is not out of this square, you get a 0. If this point of inflection is not in this square, you get a 0 as well. You have to be very, very accurate. And also those turning point. Okay, so x-intercept, y-intercept has to be spot on. Otherwise, you don't get a mark. So, however, if you're careful enough, you should. This is 3 marks giveaway. And the reality is very few people get those 3 marks, which is very disappointing. So I'm telling all the students, for the first question, you should get a 2. You might not get these 2. Okay, so you get 1, 1, 3. At least you can get 5 marks out of 10. Half, you get it. And then we start difficult. They change this K. So this, they say GK, okay, so so they change this. Initially, this equation is what? Is 1. Yes, this is -1. They change this 1 into K. They say, what value of this K, this rational function only have 2 asymptote. Now this one is hard. So this is why I am smiling when I do this paper, when I got this paper in the library doing this. When I see this question, I'm smiling. This is beautiful question. Not many people will get it. So that's the 2 marks differentiate whether you are top students or you are average or you are absolutely no good. So you get a 0. So if you're slightly good, you get a 1. If you're top students, you get 2. So this question again is so important. So you know, first of all, again, you have to know this is improper fraction. This is improper rational function. So they become a proper fraction. So this denominator would be this. And the numerator have 1 term, something plus something, x, and plus another equation. So in order to have 2 asymptote, this is already asymptote here. 1 is here. Then here you can only have, this is 2, denominator have two component. You can only have 1. If you have 2, so you have 3 asymptote. You can only have 1 here. So in order to have 1, so you know, so this k cannot be positive, -5, because if it's -5, these 2 cancel out. So you have first answer. And this one cannot be -3/2. So this one cannot be this same. Otherwise, they cancel out. And now this one is slightly complicated. So because if this k equals -2, so this x plus 2, they become square, become 1. So again, you have only 1. So therefore, you can only have those 3 values. So make sure you have this is asymptote. And this asymptote, the denominator can only have 1 term. In order to have denominator in 1 term, k can be -2, k can be -5, k can be 3/2. This question is difficult. If you don't understand this step, this improper rational function can convert a proper rational function plus another term, then you're stuffed. You don't know this question. Okay, so you cannot do this question. Majority of people get a 0. When I mark the total 320 paper, majority of people, I would say 300 paper get a 0. About 10 or whatever, 20 get a 1. Only probably 1 or 2 get all correct in this question. And so this is difficult question. So again, but hello, we're towards the end of the paper. So this is D, the second last, E, second one. So this is difficult. And 2. Now this question actually can be done. They say asking for the GK, this GK, they have more asymptote or 2 asymptote, but will have no stationary point. So when you see no stationary point, you quickly you understand this straight away. So derivative of this cannot have solution. So basically G dash derivative K cannot be 0, have no solution. So you can do, obviously if you do manually, you again waste of time. You define this again, you work out, you define this, you do derivative equals 0, solve this, you work out this discriminant x inside the square. So basically it's discriminant has to be less than 0. So this is inside the discriminant here. So that's -12. So I did this on the calculator this morning because I can't remember those solutions. So work out this, and this inside the square root has to be less than 0. Because you have no solution. So, but this is -21 take out. So therefore, this whole thing is greater than 0. Then you can either solve this on the calculator or you can solve this manually. This solve manually is very easy. You factorization 1, 2, and 3 and 5. Yes, so 10. Okay, so this is positive. Also 5 here and 3 over here. So positive here, negative here. So you converted this into k plus 5 and 2k minus 3 greater than 0. So you solve this equation straight away in equation. And this question actually can be done. It's a little bit tedious. You have to define this. You do solve again, you define this first, you solve g dash x equals 0, give you this equation. Okay, take 1 minute. Then you solve this manually or on the calculator, either way. So you can solve this manually. So these 2 marks actually can get, but again, the majority of people didn't get it. The vast majority, I'm talking about 99% of people didn't get it. So overall, this question is very poorly done, the first question. The D part and even C part didn't do well. So 3 mark, the sketch, the graph. Every year we have sketch graph and people don't do well. And D part basically is a wipe out. Not many people get it. The 4 marks, if you're lucky to get a 1. Okay, so many people didn't get it. So as I said, so whenever the question you look at, even this paper this last year's paper, the first question already difficult. Normally, the first question is a giveaway. They make it very, very simple, but the first question is difficult. But having said that, you can at least do A, B, C part, 3 parts. A D, if you can't do it, you just leave it. Okay, so this is the first question. Now, the second question, do I have time to do second question? No, it's 3 o'clock already, my God. So I don't have the same time to do second question already.
Sorry.
Also, I'm prepared for, again, they put a complex number question. Every year they come up with a complex number. But part A, this time part A is slightly complicated, the second part. So I don't have time to go through this anymore. So, but if anyone wanted this paper solution, I can email that to the school so that you probably can ask the school access for the school. So now I'm sort of reinforce the technique for doing the second paper specialist maths exam. So you don't give up any question. You have to do 6, all of them. You make sure you get A, B, C at least correct. Then you get as many marks as possible. Even this text is hard. I'm actually predicting this year's specialist maths exam will be a lot easier because this year always do this. 1 year they're hard and then everyone complains. The next year is easy. Then when this year is easy, for instance, easy, then everyone complains it's too easy. Then next year is hard. So they're always rotating. But doesn't matter how hard or how easy they are. You make sure you can do whatever the question you can do, you do it. If some unfamiliar question come up, you don't give up. You don't panic. Okay, so you if you spend 5 minutes or 2 minutes, you have absolutely no idea, you give up straight away. You move on to the next one. So that's the strategy. Okay, so the last 5 minutes, I might just have if you have any questions.
I think it's too professional to ask questions.
I know, but this is sort of, I'll give you an example for last year's exam. So because you asked me to do a lesson, said, how do I pick a topic? I don't know which topic I have to pick. Also, let's just pick the last year's exam.
But let us summarize. It seems that unless every student can do every question accurately, I mean, accuracy in specialist maths test paper is essential, important.
Yes, if you get a half right, you don't get a mark. So I'm telling you that when we mark brutally. Okay, why do they do this? If you look at the marking scheme, my God, they are so harsh. Why? Because if we are not harsh, we simply cannot finish the marking. So we see the solution is not right, 0. Anything wrong, 0. If your mathematical manipulation is wrong, 0. So very easy. Okay, I'll look at this here. So, because most of the question is 1 mark. If you have any idea, it's 2 mark. It will give you the methods 1 mark. The answer 1 mark. Answer is wrong. You get a 0. If your method is wrong, I don't even have to look at anything. 0 straight away. So we mark this very, very quickly. Otherwise, we can't finish it. So we have 5 days to mark 160 paper. Another 5 days to mark. So in turn, 10 days we mark 320 papers. Every teacher. We think I have 25 specialists, about 25 specialist teacher mark second exam. So and we trying to recruit more teacher to mark, so we couldn't find it. Okay, so any questions? No? Okay, I'm just save this paper and I'm going to email that to the school. So if anyone wants it, you can have it. Probably it's useless, maybe because you can see the answer everywhere, okay, on the website or whatever. But that's basically my sort of my presentation of the solution.
One of our candidates named Max, he asked about Mr. Wang. I'm doing a teaching degree at this moment. Math is one of my teaching methods. Do you have any suggestions for pre-service math teacher like me?
Sorry, he's doing what? He's a uni student already.
Yeah, I think so. Then he's
a uni student doing education degree. Maths is his subject.
Exactly. Do you have any suggestions?
So my suggestion is you do as many maths component as possible in university. You don't do the basic calculus 1, 2, you probably do 3, 4, whenever they offer, let's say if you are in Melbourne Uni or Monash Uni, so their maths department is very, very strong. You do as many as possible, because if you want to teach year 12 specialist maths, you want to know all branch of maths. The calculus is the key part. If you know tiny bit, you won't be confident. In order to be confident, walk into the classroom. So every year, every now and again, so if you go to a top school like Melbourne Grammar, Scotch College, you always have 1 or 2 students that are very, very bright. They ask, if you're not competent, they ask you a question, seriously, you can't answer, then you will feel so embarrassed. So I always make sure I have known so much better than you. So I've learned calculus from book 1 to book 4, whenever I learned all of them, then I can confidently walk into the classroom. Not only this calculus, you have to probably, current teacher, if your education is in Australia, in Victoria, you probably have to do those components of geometry as well. If any school offer a Euclidean geometry proof, you should do this component as well. Those questions will come up in the, not come up in VCE exam, but it will come up in IB, high level, prove geometry, and also come up in the maths competition, Melbourne Uni competition, whenever the competition. Then imagine if your top students ask you a question, you can't do it, and you will feel so embarrassed. So therefore, as I said, you go out to do as many components as possible, the maths component in uni. Do as many as possible to make sure you acquired all branch of maths. Statistics these days is very important as well, geometry, and also the discrete maths is important as well. So there's lots of those, and prove all sorts of those things. You just learn as much as possible. Don't be sort of satisfied a tiny bit, or I passed this exam, minimum. No, because you will meet the very bright kids every year, 1 or 2. Okay, so and then you. Otherwise, the kids, if you can't answer those questions, kids are very, very good at judge how good you are. So they won't ask you anymore. And then the rumor will, the words will, word of mouth, everyone will know these teachers are not good. And you don't want to hear this, okay?
I will save another question for you, just one more, then
Okay.
no more. Would you say Scotch is better at maths or Melbourne High?
Sorry?
Would you say Scotch College is better at maths or Melbourne High School? Why not Melbourne Grammar?
My God, it's impossible to say, because I can only say this. The students, obviously Melbourne High is selective students. So the average students is a lot better than any other school. In talking about Melbourne Grammar, Scotch College, we are not selective school, but we, as I said, entire population, any school, so you will have top 10 students. Let's say you have 2 students in the school. So you have 20 students, they naturally mathematicians, they love maths. At least 10% of people love maths. They passionately love maths. They will do well. Then the student's quality is important. Then the depends on individual teacher. If you have a good teacher, really you can't compare school to school. You can go to a top school, let's say Scotch. If you had a crap teacher, your specialist maths career is doomed. I'm telling you this, okay? If you are in Melbourne High, if there's a patch, very patched, especially, I'm not sort of have a bad mouth of those younger teachers. Okay, so when I see those school, when I sometimes privately tutor those students, they do specialist maths, I'm always asking their teacher's age. If they're under 30 or something, under 40, they probably just have only taught maths for 3 years or 4 years. They most likely they are no good. If you have 20 years of experience, at least 10 years, if you're older, the better. Okay, they know a lot more. That's the reality. If you have experienced teacher, they are very knowledgeable, then doesn't matter which school you go. So if every school you have a good teacher and bad teacher, if you're lucky to have a good teacher and then you work hard, then you will do well. But then we're talking about a specific school. If you look at Scotch College and Melbourne Grammar, we're talking about, if you look 10 years ago, no other school, we're talking about a math staff, because I know both school, the older teachers, no other school has this quality of the quality of teacher is just so good. But the last 10 years, all of them are retiring, or most of them are retiring or left. So the quality of teacher is very similar to lots of schools. So it really depends on, but normal school, the Scotch College and let's say Melbourne Grammar, or I don't really know the Melbourne High, they probably will still have the most experienced teacher specialist in maths. That's our hope. Okay, if they have a very young teacher, so only graduated from uni for 2 years or 3 years, then that's really bad. That's all I can say. Okay, so it really depends on the teacher. They explain the concept very well. Yeah.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you now.
Okay, so my time is up. I know I'm talking.
Thank you. Love your enthusiasm.
Okay, all right.
The comments from the parents and from the students.
Are they? Okay, I haven't seen any comment or chat.
From chat.
Oh, there's a couple of them. Okay, so it's very, thank you. Whenever you give me positive. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, doing teaching degree. Oh, yeah, I saw this now. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Melbourne Scotch College. I can tell you one. Why Scotch College is sort of people rate them very high, because they have teachers previous, not necessarily now. Previous head of teacher. Marco Evans, he writes specialist maths all the time before now he retired. And also current, now again, the older, I forgot his name now, the Italian name, he wrote a methods exam as well. So therefore the students in their school benefited, because when they write the exam, inevitably they will leaking a little bit of information to the school, to the students, but not necessarily now. Okay, so because they all left or retired.
Thank you, Mr. Wang, for your time today. Thank you for joining us.